'Tis the season to be speculating about Don't Starve Together's up-and-coming character reworks. Each and every existing character in DST has been promised a refresh, which, from what we've seen so far, entails a series of major changes in the character's abilities and play style. More often than not, these changes focus more on the enjoyability of the character over their power or ability to survive, especially compared to the other survivors. Although balance has not appeared to be a major intention for the reworks, all updated characters generally sit around the same power level, with no ridiculously under or overpowered outliers. So this begs the question, exactly what is going to happen to the pre-reworked characters who are the most powerful? More specifically, the Big Three, or the Holy Trinity, Wickerbottom, Wolfgang, and WX78. For essentially as long as DST has existed, the general consensus is that these three characters vastly outshine the others due to their incredible game-breaking abilities and power levels, which are complemented by trivial or even completely meaningless downsides. Reworking these three characters is not going to be an easy task. They are revered amongst the community for a reason, and if they lose a large enough portion of their power, the result may end up being rather disappointing. Since Clay has stated that the reworks are not centered around balance, there's a fair chance that the characters will retain their original levels of power. Clay also appears to be reluctant to change the meta way of playing the game. So far, of all the new updates we've received for the game, not one of them has even slightly altered the most optimal way of playing the game. As it stands, picking Wolfgang or WX78 and then rushing the ruins still remains hands down the easiest and fastest way to get late game gear in the early game. Comparing this to the lunar islands and the ocean, the newest areas introduced in Return of Them, well, the new areas don't even have late game gear yet. The only powerful item we can obtain is the glass cutter, which even then is an alternative for an already existing weapon. Additionally, none of the new or reworked characters have even come close to matching the ruins clearing power of Wolfgang or WX. So naturally the meta has remained the same, despite the plethora of new content being introduced. So what could we hope for from these three reworks that would ultimately change the characters for the better? The first is probably something that everyone can agree on: lore. Obviously, this component doesn't have a direct impact on gameplay, but seeing our favourite characters get their past fleshed out can often aid our appreciation of them as a character, and may even cause us to relate to them on a personal level. Unless you're a Woody main. I mean, yeah, at this point Woody's entire character is "he's a Canadian," which is a highly intellectual and therefore hilarious joke, but there's still a lot of missed potential, like, who is Lucy? Was she his wife, girlfriend, mother? Where did Woody's curse originate from? Jokes and humour are always great, but maybe not so much when they literally take away an entire character's backstory. Anyway, tangent aside, it's highly unlikely that Clay will do the same thing for any future character, so I don't think we have heaps to worry about here. Every other character's backstory has been nailed thus far, and it will be highly interesting to learn about how Wolfgang, Wickerbottom, and WX accrued their powers. Have you ever wanted to join a place where you can chat with other Freddo Films viewers, hang out, and have a chance to join in on certain videos like that Gorge gameplay from a few days ago? Well friend, that was an oddly specific request, but hey, evidently today is your lucky day, because as it so happens a place just like that already exists. Click the link in the pinned comment to join up. Who knows, perhaps you'll have the capacity to have a normal human conversation. The second component is, in my eyes, the most important and integral change that could be made to these characters. Give these guys a downside. Downsides, in my opinion, are something that can truly make or break a Don't Starve character. Realistically, every character should have some sort of downside that adds to their character and creates a playstyle in conjunction with their upsides. There are many examples of existing Don't Starve characters who do this excellently. Just think, Wigford, Weber, Wormwood, Wooly, and to an extent Maxwell and Wartox are all characters whose downsides complement their upsides and form a playstyle. Wigford's inability to eat non-meat dishes complements her combat-oriented perks, thus enforcing a hunting and farming based playstyle. Weber's label as a monster works in tandem with his spider charming powers to change his allegiance amongst the creatures of the constant. Wormwood's lack of healing from foods forces him to find other healing methods, instead of just relying on ingredients farmed from his plants. Wooly's refined palate is designed to make him more reliant on his special recipes and cooking related perks. Maxwell and Wartox are not as strong examples as the other characters, but they still both have downsides that at least somewhat influence their playstyle. Maxwell's drastically lower max health is intended to make him more reliant on his shadows for fighting, and Wartox's decreased hunger gain from mortal foods is supposed to make him more reliant on consuming souls for nutrition. Sadly, the impact of these two perks is somewhat nullified, as Maxwell's shadow duelists aren't all that great, and Wartox can still easily live off normal foods, although they still stand as good enough examples of downsides shaping a character. Interestingly, I also feel that these characters can be the most enjoyable to players, due to the way that their cleverly designed perks work together to make the player really think, and question every move that they make. Compare this to the mindless slaughter and domination that is playing WX or Wolfgang. You can definitely see how downsides can enhance the enjoyability of a character. That's not to say that playing the big three doesn't take skill or isn't fun. Of course it does, and of course it can be. But it's still far easier to do things such as beat bosses, rush the ruins, and create immense late game farms as these characters. Having intricate downsides for them will also increase diversification amongst them, perhaps changing how they are viewed as part of the game, maybe even removing their existing label of being the go-to meta characters. The third part to the ideal reworks for these three characters is for Clay to tone down their combat and tactical prowess to a point that is fair, but does not take away from the character when compared to their pre-reworked state. Because, let's face it, if Clay completely removes one of Wickerbottom's books, or greatly nerfs Wolfgang's damage, it could ultimately end up being highly disappointing, or even ruining the character in a way. As stated before, balance isn't of the utmost priority, so what does it matter if these three characters still remain the best of the bunch? In my opinion, they just need more to them than utterly trivial downsides that have no relation to their brilliant perks. Small things, such as increasing crafting costs, tweaking values, and otherwise fine-tuning the balance can honestly make all the difference when it comes to the new Wickerbottom, WX, and Wolfgang. There isn't really heaps to say here, I just hope the characters still retain their original charm and only benefit from their respective updates. The fourth and final component to the ultimate Big 3 reworks is something new. Clay's been labelling the character updates as refreshes for a reason. They aren't simply balance updates or minor changes. So far, each character has received large changes to their existing perks, oftentimes completely changing certain aspects of them. It's honestly quite exciting to think of what Clay would have in store for the Holy Trinity. They are, after all, some of the most beloved characters in Don't Starve for a multitude of reasons. There are some excellent suggestions floating around for the characters, such as WX78 being able to upgrade individual body parts, each appendage or chassis component granting a unique permanent bonus, or Wickerbottom having more books focused on buffing teammates, such as the unique interaction between WX78 and the End is Nigh. All in all, the success of the three character reworks may rest largely upon them receiving changes that tone down their ridiculousness by adding downsides that work together with their existing and new perks in order to make a unique and fulfilling playstyle. It's pretty exciting to think of what will come for Wickerbottom, Wolfgang, and WX in the near future. They are some of the most beloved and revered characters in the game, as they were some of the earliest characters added who all have great personalities and unique perks. Anyway, thanks a ton for watching the video all the way through. Hopefully you survived the high levels of opinion exposure. Be sure to leave a comment containing your thoughts on the video. Believe it or not, I do read every comment, especially on videos like this. It's always interesting to hear what others have to think on this sort of thing. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time.